She pulled a ring out of her suit pocket and held it up between them. It was his ring. The one he'd been saving for 3 years. The one that had been buried at the bottom of his duffel bag. Wrapped in a sock. Tucked beneath his spare t-shirts. How? Leo started. I had your bag searched. Luna said flatly. You what? Security checkpoint. Very efficient. She turned the ring between her fingers. Watching the cheap diamond catch the airport's fluorescent glare. 3 years in the field together. And this is what you were hiding from me. Leo's face went hot. Then cold. His jaw tightened. That's none of your business. It is now. She stepped closer. 1 inch. 2. Close enough that he could smell her perfume, something sharp and expensive that didn't belong in a place with sticky floors and vending machine coffee. Luna lifted her chin. Her eyes, dark and unreadable, locked onto his. You hand in your resignation without telling me. You disappear for 3 months without a single message. And now you're going to marry some, she paused. Her lips curling. Kindergarten teacher. In a town with 1 traffic light and a bakery that closes at 5. Leo's hands balled into fists at his sides. You don't get to talk about her. I don't get to. Luna let out a sound. Not quite a laugh. Something sharper. Leo. I followed you here. I had your flight tracked. I had your entire itinerary forwarded to my assistant before you even buckled your seatbelt. Do you honestly think I came all this way to critique your choices? Then why? She didn't answer. Not with words. She reached forward and grabbed the front of his shirt, pulling him down so fast he had to brace a hand against the wall behind him to keep from falling. And then she kissed him. The airport went dead silent around them. Someone dropped a suitcase. A child asked loudly. Mommy. Why is that lady eating that man's? Luna pulled back. Her lipstick was smudged. Her eyes were wet, just barely. Just at the corners. The only crack in the ice she'd spent years building. Your wedding. She said. Her voice low and rough. Cancel it. Leo stood frozen. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. His lips still burned where hers had been. Luna, cancel it. She repeated. Because if you walk down that aisle, I'll be there. Not as a guest. Not to congratulate you. She pressed the ring back into his palm, closing his fingers around it with both of her hands. I'll stand in the middle of that church and I will tell everyone in that room, your mother, your grandmother, that pretty little teacher with the braids, I'll tell them that you and I spent 2 years in a war zone together. That I watched you stitch up soldiers while mortar shells hit 30 feet away. That I held your hand through 3 nights of fever when you caught what they couldn't cure. And when you woke up, the first word you said wasn't your mother's name. She paused. Swallowed. It was mine. Leo felt the world tilt beneath his feet. That didn't mean, it meant everything. Her voice cracked. Just once. Then she smoothed it back into steel. You were delirious. You had no reason to lie. And you said my name like I was the only thing keeping you alive. He opened his mouth. Closed it. There was nothing to say because she wasn't wrong. Leo. She let go of his hand. Stepping back. Her composure slid back into place like a mask. You can marry her. You can open your little flower shop and plant your little roses and live your quiet little life. But I need you to know something before you do. She turned and walked 3 steps toward the exit. Then she looked back over her shoulder. I have never waited for anyone. Not a single person in my entire life. Her voice dropped. But I've been waiting for you for 2 years. She walked out through the sliding glass doors. The terminal was still silent. 50 strangers stared at Leo like he'd just survived a bomb blast. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from his fiancée. Can't wait to see you. I've already picked out the flowers. Pink roses. You'll love them. Leo stared at the screen. His hand was still shaking. And somewhere outside, an engine roared to life. He didn't know it yet. But she wasn't done with him. Not even close. Leo didn't sleep that night. He lay in the cheap motel room his mother had booked for him, just until the wedding. Dear. The house is too cramped with your father's things, and stared at the water-stained ceiling. The ring sat on the nightstand. He'd put it there. Then picked it up. Then put it down again. Then picked it up and turned it over in his palm until the cheap diamond caught the flickering neon light from the window and threw tiny rainbows across the wall. 2 years. 2 years of sand and blood and nights so loud he couldn't remember what silence felt like. 2 years of her voice cutting through the chaos. Sharp and clear. Giving orders that kept people alive. Leo. Get down. Leo. Don't you dare close your eyes. Leo. 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 He pressed the heels of his palms against his eyes until he saw stars. It didn't matter. He told himself. It was the field. It was the adrenaline. It was proximity and exhaustion and the way death made everything feel more urgent than it really was. People fell in love in war zones all the time. And then they came home and realized it was just survival dressed up in a pretty costume. That's all it was. That's all it had to be. His phone buzzed. Again. He didn't look. He already knew who it was. His fiancée had sent 17 messages since he landed, photos of centerpieces. Questions about his mother's dietary restrictions. A 30-second voice memo about the weather forecast for Saturday. Sweet. Thoughtful. Normal. Everything Luna wasn't. Leo dragged himself out of bed at 6 in the morning. Splashed cold water on his face. And stared at his own reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror. You're fine. He told his reflection. You're home. You're getting married. Everything is fine. His reflection didn't look convinced. The bakery was called Sunrise Buns. And it sat on the corner of Main Street like it had been there since the town was founded. Which it probably had. The smell of yeast and sugar hit Leo the moment he pushed open the door. And for one brief moment, he felt something close to peace. Then he saw the red Mercedes parked outside. His town didn't have red Mercedes. His town had dented pickups and the occasional Prius that belonged to the high school principal. A red Mercedes in this parking lot was like a peacock in a chicken coop. Leo ignored it. He bought 2 cinnamon rolls and a coffee and sat at the window table, watching the street wake up. Old Mr. Patterson walked his golden retriever. Mrs. Chen opened her dry cleaning shop. The town clock struck 7:30. And everything felt exactly the way he dreamed about during those long nights in the desert. And then the bakery door swung open. And the peace shattered. Leo Lin. He looked up. A man stood in the doorway. Expensive loafers. Tailored shirt. Hair that had been styled by someone who charged by the minute. He had a pleasant face, too pleasant. The kind of pleasant that suggested years of practice. Can I help you? Leo asked. The man smiled. He walked over and sat down across from Leo without being invited. Folding his hands on the table like they were about to negotiate a merger. I'm Richard Zhao. Wanners, he paused. Savoring the word. Well, I suppose I should say my wanner now. The coffee cup stopped halfway to Leo's mouth. Excuse me. Don't play dumb. It doesn't suit you. Richard leaned back. Crossing one leg over the other. Wanner and I have been seeing each other for 6 months. She was going to tell you. But she's soft. Too soft. I'm the one who handles difficult conversations in our relationship. Leo set the cup down very carefully. You're telling me my fiancée has been cheating on me. Cheating is such an ugly word. Richard spread his hands. She didn't know if you were coming back. You were in a war zone. Leo. People die in war zones. And she's young. She's beautiful. She has needs. Get out. Richard raised an eyebrow. Excuse me. I said get out. Leo's voice was quiet. Dead quiet. The kind of quiet that had made soldiers in the field stop arguing and follow orders. Before I do something that makes your face look less pleasant. Richard's smile didn't waver. But he stood. I'll be at the wedding. He said. Straightening his cuffs. Oh wait, there isn't one anymore. Is there? Because you just lost your bride. And you didn't even get to kiss her goodbye. He walked out. Whistling. The bakery door swung shut behind him. Leo sat there for a long moment. His hands were shaking again. His chest felt tight. Like something had wrapped itself around his ribs and was squeezing. 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 His phone buzzed. Message from Warner, I'm so sorry. I was going to tell you in person. Please don't hate me. Richard is good to me. He's safe. You understand what safe means. Don't you? After everything you've been through, you have to understand. Leo stared at the words until they blurred. Then he did something he hadn't done in 2 years. He picked up the coffee cup and threw it against the wall. It shattered into 100 brown pieces. Coffee dripping down the floral wallpaper like tears. The old woman at the next table gasped. The teenager behind the counter ducked. Leo stood, pulled out his wallet, and slapped every bill he had onto the counter. "Sorry," he said, his voice hollow. "I'll pay for the wall." He walked out into the morning sun and didn't look back. He ended up by the river. The same river he'd swum in as a kid. The same river where he'd carved their initials, LW. Forever, into the old oak tree 15 years ago. He walked past the tree. He didn't look at it. Instead, he sat on the bank, pulled out his phone, and scrolled through her messages. All of them. The sweet ones. The anxious ones. The one from 3 weeks ago that said, "I'm scared you're not coming home. I keep having nightmares." He'd responded, "I'm always coming home to you." She'd sent a heart emoji. That was the last message before she'd stopped waiting. Leo pulled the ring out of his pocket. The same ring Luna had pressed into his palm less than 24 hours ago. He turned it over. Watched the light catch the cheap stone. And then he pulled his arm back and threw it as far as he could into the river. It disappeared with a soft plink. Gone. He sat there for a long time, watching the water flow past. The sun climbed higher. The town woke up around him. Somewhere. A dog barked. Somewhere else. A lawnmower sputtered to life. Normal life. The life he'd been running toward for 2 years. And now he had no idea what to do with it. He didn't hear the car pull up behind him. He didn't notice the footsteps on the grass. But he sure as hell noticed when a pair of black high heels stepped into his field of vision. Planted themselves in the mud like they belonged there. And a familiar voice said, "Throwing things into rivers. Very dramatic. Very you." Leo looked up. Luna stood over him. Arms crossed. She had changed out of her suit into a simple white blouse and dark jeans. Her hair was down. For the first time he could remember, falling past her shoulders in waves that didn't look like they'd ever seen a curling iron. She looked human. She looked terrifying. "What are you doing here?" Leo asked. His voice was hoarse. He hadn't realized he'd been crying until he heard the rasp in it. Luna didn't answer. She sat down next to him on the grass. Right in the mud. Not caring about her expensive jeans. "Richard Zhao," she said. CEO of Zhao Properties. 2 divorces. 1 pending lawsuit for workplace harassment. Owns a yacht he can't afford and a house he mortgaged twice. She pulled out her phone. "I had my team run a background check in 47 minutes. Leo stared at her. "You ran a background check on my fiancé's boyfriend." "Ex-fiancé." She corrected him without looking up. "And no. I ran it on the boyfriend. I already had hers done last week. Last week. I was thorough." She pocketed the phone. "Also, I made a call. Your wedding venue. Their fire sprinklers malfunctioned this morning. The whole place is flooded. They're closed for renovations." Leo blinked. I didn't do it." She paused. "But I'm not sorry it happened." A laugh burst out of Leo. It was ragged. Broken. Half strangled by everything else he was feeling. But it was a laugh. Luna looked at him sideways. Something flickered in her eyes, something that might have been relief. "You're a disaster." Leo said. "I'm a work in progress." She shot back. "And you flew 4 hours just to, what? Stalk me." "I flew 4 hours because you didn't answer my text." Leo frowned. "You didn't send a..." He pulled out his phone. Scrolled. There it was. A message from an unknown number. Sent at 3:47 a.m. "I'm outside." He'd been asleep. He'd missed it. "You were outside the motel," he said slowly. "At 4 in the morning. I was cold. I was tired. I had 3 cups of coffee and I was vibrating like a tuning fork." She said it like she was reading a quarterly report. "And I thought, if I wait long enough, maybe you'll come out. Maybe you'll look up and see me and realize that what I said at the airport wasn't." She stopped. The ice in her voice melted for just a second. And beneath it was something raw and scared. Leo watched her. He watched the way her fingers twisted in the grass. The way she wouldn't meet his eyes. "You think I'm going to run back to Warner?" he said. "I think you're going to do the safe thing." She finally looked at him. "You always do the safe thing. Leo. You became a doctor because it was safe. You went into the field because it was safer than staying home with your feelings. And now you're back here. In this town. With these people. Because it's safe." He finished. "Yeah. I know. Safe is boring." She leaned forward. Safe as watching the love of your life marry someone else because you were too afraid to tell her how you felt 2 years ago. Leo's breath caught. 2 years ago. He repeated. You know what I'm talking about. He did. He knew exactly what she was talking about. The night after the mortar attack. The fever. The way he'd woken up in a medical tent with her face swimming above him. Tears streaking through the dust on her cheeks. Her hand gripping his like she was trying to keep him from floating away. And the thing he'd said. Her name. Just her name. Over and over. Luna. She froze. Her eyes went wide. Don't. She whispered. Luna. He said it again. Deliberately. Luna, Luna, Luna. Leo, that wasn't the fever. He took a breath. It hurt. Everything hurt. But he was still talking. You think I was delirious. You think I didn't know what I was saying. Luna's composure cracked. Just a sliver. A hairline fracture across the ice. Then why? Her voice broke. Why did you leave? He didn't have an answer. Or rather. He had too many. The PTSD. The fear. The conviction that she could never want someone like him. Broken and shaking and barely holding it together. The certainty that she deserved better than a man who flinched at loud noises and woke up screaming in the dark. But none of that came out. Instead. He leaned forward and kissed her. It wasn't like the airport. That had been fast and desperate and stolen. This was slow. Careful. His hand came up to cup her jaw. His thumb brushing the place where her tears had started to fall. She made a small sound against his lips, a sound he'd never heard her make in 2 years of knowing her. When he pulled back. She was crying. Not pretty crying. Ugly crying. Her nose was red and her mascara was smeared and she looked like she wanted to punch him in the face. You're an idiot. She said. I know. A complete. Absolute. Unredeemable, I know. And I've been in love with you for 2 years and you just, I know. He pulled her against his chest. I know. She went rigid. Then. Slowly. She melted into him. Her arms came up around his back. Her fingers digging into his shirt like she was afraid he'd disappear. Your wedding is off. She mumbled into his shoulder. Yeah. Your flower shop is still available. I checked. I figured. And I have a spare key to my penthouse. If you want it. Leo laughed again. This time. It didn't sound broken. It sounded almost like hope. You're insane. He said. I'm a CEO. There's a difference. He pulled back just far enough to look at her. Her face was a mess. She was a mess. And he had never loved her more. Luna. What? I'm not marrying Warner. I know. I'm not opening that shop alone. I know. And I'm not, he stopped. Swallowed. I'm not safe. You know that. Right. I'm not fixed. I'm not, I don't want safe. She cut in. I want you. Broken. Scared. Still screaming in the middle of the night. All of it. I've wanted all of it since the day you told me the fever meant nothing and walked away like I was just another part of the job. Leo closed his eyes. I didn't mean that. He said. I was lying. I know. She touched his face. I've always known. They sat there by the river. In the mud. With the sun climbing overhead and the town waking up around them. His ex-fiancée was gone. Her carefully constructed walls were in ruins. And for the first time in 2 years. Leo felt like he could breathe. So. Luna said. Pulling back and wiping her face with the back of her hand. What now? Leo looked at her. This impossible. Terrifying. Wonderful woman who had flown 4 hours to stand in the mud and tell him she'd been waiting. Now. He said. Taking her hand. You're going to help me pick out roses. What? For the shop. He grinned. You said you wanted to be part of it. Come on. CEO. Let's go buy some flowers. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed. It was the first time Leo had ever heard her laugh. It was loud and ungraceful and completely perfect. You're ridiculous. She said. You're one to talk. She punched his arm. He caught her hand and held it. And together. They walked back toward the town. Muddy jeans and all. To figure out what happened next. The flower shop was smaller than Leo remembered. When he'd signed the lease 3 months ago. It had seemed spacious. Full of potential. Plenty of room for buckets of peonies and shelves of ferns and a little counter where he could sit and read and pretend the past 2 years had never happened. Now. standing in the middle of it with Luna Lang examining a dusty shelf like it had personally offended her. It felt impossibly cramped. "There's mold," she announced. "There's dust," Leo corrected. "There's mold. Behind the shelf. Look." She pointed with the kind of authority that made people jump. "And the floorboards are warped. And the windows, are those original? They're leaking light. That's terrible for temperature control." Leo rubbed his temples. "You're supposed to be helping me pick out flowers. I'm helping you pick out a location. The flowers come after structural integrity." "Luna, don't Luna to me." She turned, crossing her arms. "You're going to be spending 12 hours a day in this building. You want it to collapse on your head. It's not going to collapse. It has mold. Leo. Mold is treatable. Mold is a health hazard. Do you know what kind of respiratory issues you can develop from prolonged mold exposure? I have a whole department of pulmonologists who could, Luna." He walked over and put his hands on her shoulders. "Breathe." She stopped. Glared at him. But she breathed. "You're doing the CEO thing," he said gently. "The, I must fix everything immediately, thing. I appreciate it. I really do. But this is a flower shop. Not a merger." She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "I'm not good at this," she admitted finally. "The normal stuff. Normal stuff. Flowers. Mold. Whatever people do when they're not running companies." She gestured vaguely at the empty shelves. "I've been in boardrooms for 15 years. I can negotiate a billion-dollar acquisition in my sleep. I don't know how to pick out roses." Leo felt something warm spread through his chest. "Okay," he said. "Then let's start with something simple." He took her hand and led her to the back of the shop, where an old wooden table sat collecting dust. He wiped it off with his sleeve. "Roses," he said. "What color do you like?" Luna stared at him like he'd asked her to solve a quantum physics equation. "I don't have a preference. Everyone has a preference. I don't." "Okay." He pulled out his phone. "I'm going to show you pictures. You're going to point. Deal." She nodded stiffly. He started scrolling. Red roses. White roses. Yellow. Pink. Peach. Coral. Lavender. Luna's face remained impassive through all of them. Then he got to the dark crimson ones, the kind that looked almost black in certain light. The kind that had always reminded him of her. She reached out and touched the screen. "Those," she said quietly. "Dark red. They look like." She paused. Struggling. "Like they survived something. Like they're beautiful. But they've been through a storm." Leo looked at her. Really looked. Her hair was still down. She was still in the muddy jeans from the river. She had a streak of dust on her cheek from inspecting the shelves. And she looked nothing like the woman who had walked through that airport terminal yesterday. She looked real. "Those are my favorite too," he said. She glanced at him. A tiny smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "Good choice," she said. "I thought so." He ordered 50 stems on the spot. An hour later, they were standing in the middle of the hardware store. And Luna was having a crisis over paint swatches. "This one is called Warm Sand," she read aloud. Her voice dripping with disdain. "What is warm sand? Sand isn't warm. Sand is just sand. It's a color. Luna. Colors have names. Names should mean something." She held up another swatch. "This one is Misty Morning." Misty morning. Those are words. They don't describe a shade of beige. Leo leaned against the paint display and watched her spiral. "You know," he said. "Normal people just pick a color they like. Normal people are wrong. You're impossible. I'm efficient." She grabbed 3 swatches. "We're getting driftwood, crisp linen, and silver cloud. Those are acceptable names. They're all gray. They're neutral. They're all gray. Luna. Gray is professional. Gray is calming. Gray goes with everything." Leo sighed. But he was smiling. "Fine," he said. "Gray it is." She looked absurdly pleased with herself. They grabbed lunch at a tiny diner 2 blocks from the shop. The kind of place with red vinyl booths and a jukebox that hadn't been updated since the 90s. Leo ordered a burger. Luna stared at the menu like it was written in a foreign language. "I don't eat burgers," she said. "Everyone eats burgers. I'm a CEO. I have a nutritionist. Your nutritionist isn't here." Leo took the menu from her hands. You're getting a burger. With fries. And a milkshake. I don't drink milkshakes. You do today. She glared at him. He glared back. 10 minutes later. She was staring at a bacon cheeseburger with the intensity of a bomb disposal expert. Pick it up. Leo said. I know how to eat a burger. Then eat it. She picked it up. Held it at arm's length. Took a tiny, delicate bite. Her eyes went wide. Oh. She said. Good. Right. Oh. She took another bite. Then another. By the time she was halfway through, she had ketchup on her chin and was making small, involuntary sounds of pleasure that Leo was definitely going to remember forever. You have ketchup. He said. Where? He reached across and wiped it off with his thumb. She froze. Her cheeks went pink, actually pink. The kind of pink he'd never seen on her before. Sorry. He said. Pulling back. Don't be. She cleared her throat. No one's ever done that before. Wiped ketchup off your face. Taken care of me. She looked down at her half-eaten burger. Everyone expects me to take care of them. Employees. Investors. The board. My family. No one ever. She trailed off. Leo reached across the table and took her hand. Get used to it. He said. I'm going to do it a lot. She stared at their joined hands. Then at his face. You're serious. She said. About this. About us. I'm serious. Even though I'm. She gestured vaguely at herself. Even though you're Luna. He finished. Yeah. I know. Her hand tightened around his. That night. She drove him back to the motel. I could have walked. He said. It's 3 miles. I walked 3 miles every day in the field. You're not in the field anymore. She pulled up to the curb and killed the engine. You're in a town with exactly 1 stoplight and a bakery that closes at 5. I'm not letting you walk in the dark. Leo unbuckled his seatbelt. But he didn't get out. I don't have a place. He said quietly. The house I grew up in, my parents sold it. Warner's place was supposed to be. Well. You know. Luna nodded slowly. I was going to stay in the motel until I figured things out. He continued. But I can't afford it for long. And the shop needs work before it's livable. So, you can stay with me. Leo blinked. What? My penthouse. It's enormous. I have 3 guest rooms. She said it quickly. Like she was trying to get it out before she lost her nerve. You can stay as long as you need. No strings attached. Just, Luna. A place to sleep. That's all. I'm not trying to, Luna. She stopped. Looked at him. Yes. Thank you. She exhaled. The tension drained from her shoulders. Okay. She said. Okay. Good. Tomorrow I'll have someone bring your things from the motel. You don't have to, I'm a CEO. I have people for that. Leo laughed. Of course you do. She smiled, a real smile. The kind that reached her eyes. Come on. She said. Let's go home. Home. The word echoed in Leo's head as she drove them through the winding streets toward the city. He watched the small town lights fade behind them and the skyline rise ahead. Glass and steel and neon. A world away from the desert. A world away from the life he'd been running toward. And sitting next to him, in the driver's seat, was the woman he'd been running from. Running from because he was scared. Running from because he didn't think he deserved her. Running from because loving her felt like standing in the middle of a hurricane and asking for more lightning. But she was still here. She had followed him. She had waited. She had stood in the mud and cried and told him she'd been in love with him for 2 years. And maybe, just maybe, he was finally ready to stop running. The penthouse was obscene. Leo had known she was wealthy. He'd seen the numbers on the financial reports. He'd heard the whispers in the boardrooms. But knowing and seeing were 2 very different things. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A kitchen bigger than his entire motel room. Furniture that looked like it had never been sat on. A view of the entire city sprawled below them like a glittering web of light. This is insane. He said. This is functional. She corrected. I work from home a lot. I need space to think. You need space to think in a living room the size of a tennis court. It's a comfortable size. It's a ballroom. It's a living room. Leo. Get over it. He wandered over to the window. Pressing his palm against the cool glass. He could see the river. winding through the city like a silver ribbon. He could see the bridge where he'd walked with his father as a kid. He could see everything. And behind him, he could hear Luna moving around the kitchen, opening cabinets, pulling out glasses. Water. She called. Sure. She brought him a glass. Ice clinked against the sides. Their fingers brushed when she handed it over. Thank you, he said. For all of this. The shop. The place to stay. You don't have to thank me. I do. No. She stepped closer. You don't have to thank me for wanting you here. Leo's breath caught. She was close. Too close. He could smell her perfume again, that sharp, expensive scent that made him think of boardrooms and battles and everything in between. You know, he said, his voice low. When I thought about coming home, when I pictured the quiet life, the flower shop, the picket fence, I never pictured this. Pictured what? Pictured you. Luna's lips parted. Leo, I pictured being alone. He continued. That was the plan. Quiet. Safe. No one depending on me. No one I could lose. But you didn't lose me. She said. I'm right here. I know. He reached up and touched her face. That's the terrifying part. She leaned into his palm. Just barely. Just enough. Terrifying is good. She whispered. Terrifying means it matters. Yeah. He smiled. I'm starting to figure that out. The space between them shrank to nothing. And for the second time that day, Leo kissed her. It was different this time. Slower. Deeper. His hand slid into her hair. And she made that sound again, the one that made his knees go weak. Her fingers found the hem of his shirt, gripping the fabric like she was anchoring herself to him. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. Luna said. Her voice unsteady. I'm going to go check the guest room. To make sure it's ready. Good idea. She didn't move. Luna. What? Go check the guest room. She blinked. Then she laughed, that loud, ungraceful, perfect laugh again. Right. She said. Guest room. Yes. She backed away slowly. Like she didn't want to let him out of her sight. I'll bring you extra blankets. Okay. And a pillow. A good one. Feather. Okay. And, Luna. She stopped. Just come back. He said. After you're done. She nodded. Once. Twice. Then she disappeared down the hall. And Leo stood alone in the obscene penthouse. With the city sprawled beneath him and a smile on his face that he couldn't seem to shake. Terrifying. He thought. And for the first time in years. He didn't mind the fear. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of Luna waking up at 5 in the morning to run her company from a tablet while Leo slept in the guest room down the hall. 3 weeks of her sending an assistant, a terrified young man named Kevin who looked like he'd seen things, to pick up takeout because neither of them could cook. 3 weeks of Leo slowly, painstakingly transforming the dusty little shop into something that looked like a real business. And 3 weeks of dancing around each other like they were both holding live grenades. They kissed. A lot. In the kitchen. In the hallway. Against the elevator wall on the way down to the parking garage. But every time things started to go further, Luna pulled back. Her eyes would go wide. Her breath would catch. And she'd make some excuse about a conference call or a spreadsheet that couldn't wait. Leo didn't push. He understood. In a way that surprised him. She wasn't afraid of him. She was afraid of what he made her feel. 2 years of watching him from a distance. 2 years of wanting something she couldn't have, and now she had it. And she didn't know what to do with it. So he waited. He painted walls. He built shelves. He ordered flowers from 3 different suppliers and argued with all of them about delivery dates. And every night, he came back to her penthouse. And she was there. Waiting. Like she'd been waiting for 2 years. It was good. It was almost too good. Which was why, when the phone call came, Leo knew exactly what was about to happen. Leo. It was his mother's voice. Strained. Thin. The voice she used when she was trying very hard not to cry. Mom. He set down the paint roller. What's wrong? Your father. She stopped. Took a breath. He had a heart attack. This morning. They took him to the hospital in the city. Leo's blood turned to ice. Which hospital? St. Mary's. He's in surgery now. The doctor said. Her voice broke. They said it's bad. Leo. They said we need to prepare ourselves. I'm on my way. He didn't think. He just moved. Paint-stained shirt. Jeans with a hole in the knee. Hands covered in primer. He grabbed his keys and his wallet and ran. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Leo had spent 2 years in field hospitals, surrounded by blood and screams and the constant hum of machines that kept people alive. He thought he'd become immune to it. But standing in the sterile hallway of St. Mary's cardiac wing, watching his mother crumple into a plastic chair, he felt like he was 22 again and scared of everything. Mom. He knelt in front of her. What did the doctor say? She was shaking. Her hands. Her shoulders. Her chin. She looked so small. So fragile. Nothing like the woman who had raised him with iron will and stubborn love. They said his arteries were blocked. 3 of them. They're doing a bypass. But they said, she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. They said his heart stopped twice on the way here. They had to revive him. Leo pulled her into his arms. He's going to be okay. He said. It came out automatic. The thing doctors said when they didn't know what else to say. He's strong. He's going to be okay. She clung to him, crying into his shoulder. And Leo held her. His mind racing. His heart pounding. The surgery took 6 hours. Leo sat with his mother the entire time. He brought her coffee. He held her hand. He made small talk about the weather and the flower shop and anything that would keep her mind off the operating room down the hall. He didn't call Luna. Not because he didn't want to. Because he didn't know what to say. Hey. My dad might die. Hey. I'm falling apart and I don't know how to handle it. Hey. I'm doing exactly what I promised I wouldn't do, running away from you because I'm scared. So he sat in silence. And he waited. The surgeon came out at 7 in the evening. He was tired. His scrubs wrinkled. His face pale. But when he saw Leo's mother, he smiled. He made it. The surgeon said. It was close. Very close. But he's stable now. He's in recovery. His mother burst into tears. Leo exhaled. The weight on his chest lifted just slightly. Can we see him? He asked. A few minutes. Just family. They walked into the recovery room together. Leo's father lay in a bed surrounded by machines. Tubes and wires connecting him to a dozen beeping monitors. His face was pale. His eyes closed. His chest rising and falling in a rhythm that was too slow. Too careful. But he was alive. Leo pulled up a chair next to the bed and sat down. Hey, Dad. He said quietly. You scared us. His father's eyes fluttered open. Just barely. A sliver of recognition. Leo. He whispered. His voice was raspy. Thin. You came. Of course I came. Your mother, she's here too. She just stepped out to get some water. His father nodded weakly. Then his eyes focused on Leo's face with an intensity that made Leo's stomach drop. Are you happy? His father asked. What? Are you happy? Son. His voice was barely a whisper. But the question hit like a punch. Because I spent my whole life doing what I was supposed to do. Working the job I hated. Saving for the retirement I never got to enjoy. And now I'm here. In this bed. Wondering if I ever really lived. Leo's throat tightened. Dad, I don't want that for you. His father reached out with a trembling hand and grabbed Leo's wrist. I don't want you to wake up one day and realize you spent your whole life being safe. Being careful. Being afraid. Leo couldn't speak. His eyes burned. I saw the way you looked at her. His father continued. The CEO. The one who came to the house last week. Leo blinked. Luna came to the house. She brought flowers. For your mother. She said she wanted to meet us. His father smiled weakly. She's terrifying. Son. Absolutely terrifying. And she looked at me like I was the most important man in the world because I raised you. Leo's heart hammered in his chest. She told me she loved you. His father said. Right there. In my living room. She said. I love your son. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it. She said that. She was nervous. She was shaking. I've never seen anyone so scared in my entire life. His father squeezed Leo's wrist. And she said it anyway. Leo closed his eyes. She's still in the waiting room. His father said. What? She didn't come in. She said she didn't want to intrude. But she's been there for 3 hours. Leo stood up so fast his chair scraped backward against the floor. Dad, go. His father waved him away. I'm not going anywhere. Go get your girl. Leo ran. He ran through the hospital corridors. Past the nurses' stations. Past the visitors and the patients and the vending machines humming in the dark. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs ached and he burst through the doors of the waiting room. And there she was. Luna sat in a plastic chair in the corner. Wearing the same black suit she'd worn at the airport 3 weeks ago. Her hair was pulled back. Her face was pale. And her hands were wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. She looked up when he walked in. Her eyes went wide. Leo, she didn't get to finish. Because Leo crossed the room in 3 strides. Grabbed her face with both hands. And kissed her like his life depended on it. Her coffee cup fell to the floor with a muffled thud. Her hands came up to grip his wrists. Her fingers digging in. Her whole body leaning into him like she'd been waiting for this moment for longer than she'd ever admit. When they finally broke apart. She was breathing hard. What? She said. Was that? I love you. She froze. I love you. He repeated. His voice cracked. I've loved you for 2 years. I loved you in the desert. I loved you when I was sick. I loved you when I left. I loved you in that airport. I loved you by the river. I loved you every single day of the 3 weeks we've been pretending to just be friends. Luna stared at him. Leo, I was scared. I was so scared. I thought I'd ruin you. I thought I'd drag you down with all my broken pieces. I thought I didn't deserve you. But you know what my dad just told me? She shook her head. Speechless. He told me he wasted his whole life being careful. And he doesn't want me to do the same. Leo laughed, a broken, relieved, half-hysterical laugh. So I'm not going to be careful anymore. I'm not going to be safe. I'm going to be reckless and stupid and completely, hopelessly in love with you. Luna's eyes filled with tears. You idiot. She whispered. Yeah. You absolute, complete, total idiot. I know. You were supposed to be the one who was careful. You were supposed to be the safe one. I changed my mind. She smacked his chest. Then she grabbed his shirt and pulled him down and kissed him again. Hard and desperate and perfect. I love you too. She said against his lips. I've loved you for 2 years. I loved you when you were stubborn. I loved you when you were scared. I loved you when you walked away and I thought I'd never see you again. Leo kissed her forehead. Her nose. Her cheeks. Still wet with tears. I'm not walking away anymore. He said. Promise. I promise. She pulled back and looked at him. Her mascara was smeared. Her hair was escaping from its tight bun. She was a disaster. And she was the most beautiful thing Leo had ever seen. They sat in the waiting room for another 2 hours. Holding hands. Not saying much. Leo's mother came out to find them eventually. She took one look at Luna. Then one look at Leo. And she smiled like she'd just won the lottery. You didn't tell me she was this pretty. She said to Leo. Mom, she's wasted on you. Absolutely wasted. Luna laughed. Mrs. Lin. I think that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Call me Mom. All my kids do. She patted Luna's cheek. Welcome to the family. Dear. Leo put his face in his hands. But he was smiling. 3 days later. Leo's father was released from the hospital. He was weak. Tired. And on more medications than Leo could count. But he was alive. He was home. And he had a new mission, meddling in his son's love life. When's the wedding? He asked Leo. The second he walked through the front door. Dad, don't dad me. I almost died. You owe me grandchildren. Leo sputtered. Luna. Standing behind him. Turned bright red. We're not, Leo started. We haven't even, Luna tried. We'll get there. Leo's mother said. Patting her husband's arm. Give them time. Time. It was the one thing Leo had never given himself. He'd spent 2 years running. 3 months hiding. And 3 weeks pretending. He'd been so focused on being safe. On being careful. On being fine. That he'd forgotten to actually live. But standing in his parents' living room. With Luna's hand in his and his father's teasing smile and his mother's quiet approval. He realized something. He wasn't running anymore. He was home. That night. They sat on Luna's balcony. Looking out at the city. The stars were invisible behind the glow of the skyline. But Leo didn't mind. He had everything he needed right here. You know, Luna said, her head resting on his shoulder. I never thought this would happen. What? Me. You. A balcony. Normal things. Leo laughed. You think this is normal? Normal adjacent. For us. He kissed the top of her head. What did you think would happen? She was quiet for a long moment. I thought you'd leave. She admitted. I thought you'd go home and marry your fiancé and forget about me. I thought I'd spend the rest of my life watching you from a distance. I thought, she stopped. That's not what happened. Leo said. I know. She looked up at him. But that's what I was prepared for. That's what I thought I deserved. He took her face in his hands, tilting it toward him. You deserve everything. He said. Everything good. Everything beautiful. Everything you've ever wanted. Her eyes shimmered. Even you. Especially me. She kissed him. Soft and sweet and full of promise. Your flower shop. She said when she pulled back. It opens on Saturday. I know. I took the day off. I thought I'd come help. You don't have to. I want to. She smiled. I'm going to be there. Leo. For all of it. The opening. The first sale. The first time you argue with a customer about flower arrangements. All of it. He pulled her closer. Okay. He said. Okay. And when you're ready, when you're really ready, I'm going to ask you something. Ask me now. She shook her head. Not yet. When you're ready. He didn't know what she meant. But he trusted her. He trusted her with everything. Saturday came faster than Leo expected. The flower shop was finally finished. Gray walls, Luna's choice. Wooden shelves, his choice. And a little counter near the window where he could sit and watch the street. The dark crimson roses, Luna's favorite, sat in a bucket by the register, waiting for their first customer. He'd invited his parents. His mother had promised to bring cake. His father had promised not to overexert himself. Leo had promised to call if anything went wrong. He hadn't invited Warner. But she showed up anyway. She walked through the door at 10 in the morning. Looking nervous and small and exactly like the girl he'd once promised to marry. Leo. She said softly. Can we talk? He looked at her. Part of him expected to feel angry. Or hurt. Or bitter. But all he felt was nothing. A distant echo of something that had once been important. Sure. He said. What do you want to say? She twisted her hands together. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Richard, he wasn't who I thought he was. He's controlling. He's jealous. He doesn't let me see my friends. And I realized I threw away the only good thing in my life. Leo nodded slowly. I understand. He said. She looked up hopefully. You do? I do. He took a breath. But I'm not coming back to you. Her face crumpled. Leo, I'm sorry too. He said gently. But I'm not the same person I was. And I'm not in love with you anymore. Please. She whispered. Please give me another chance. He reached out and took her hand. She clung to it like a lifeline. Juana. He said. You're going to be okay. You're strong. You'll find someone who loves you the way you deserve. But that person isn't me. She started to cry. Leo let her cry. He held her hand and let her cry. Because she deserved that much. And when she finally left, he felt the weight of 3 years fall off his shoulders. Luna appeared an hour later, carrying a massive bouquet of flowers. I brought backup. She said. In case you run out. Luna. He laughed. I own a flower shop. I'm not going to run out. Better safe than sorry. She set the bouquet on the counter and looked around. Her gaze landed on the dark crimson roses by the register. She smiled. You kept them. She said. I told you. They're my favorite too. She walked over to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. So. She said. Your ex-fiancé came by. Leo froze. How did you know? Kevin told me. He's been watching the shop. Kevin's been watching the shop. I have a security team. I have security teams for my security teams. She grinned. I told you. I'm thorough. Leo shook his head. You're impossible. You love it. He kissed her. Right there. In the middle of his brand new flower shop. With the whole street watching through the window. I do. He said against her lips. I really do. His parents arrived at noon. His mother brought cake. His father brought a wheelchair he absolutely didn't need and used it to dramatically recline in the corner while telling everyone who walked in about his near-death experience. 3 blocked arteries. He announced to a woman buying daisies. They opened me up like a can of soup. The woman looked terrified. Dad. Leo said. Please stop traumatizing the customers. I'm not traumatizing them. I'm educating them. Heart health is important. Luna, standing behind the counter, was laughing so hard she had to hold on to the register for support. You, Leo said to her, are not helping. I'm not even doing anything. You're laughing. Your father is hilarious. My father is a menace. Luna leaned over and kissed his cheek. Your father, she said, is perfect. And so are you. The shop officially opened at 1 o'clock. Leo cut the ribbon himself. With Luna beside him and his parents behind them and a small crowd of curious neighbors watching. He said a few words. He thanked everyone for coming. He tried not to cry. And then he looked at Luna. Standing there in the sunshine. Her dark hair loose and her smile bright and her hand wrapped firmly around his. Okay. He said. We're open for business. She squeezed his hand. I'm proud of you. She said. Proud of me. You built $1 billion company. I built $1 billion company. She shrugged. You built a flower shop. From scratch. With your own hands. That's harder. Leo laughed. You're insane. Insanely in love with you. He kissed her again. And somewhere in the back of the shop, his father started telling the cake story to a captive audience of 4 elderly women. And his mother was trying to stop him. And the whole place smelled like roses and fresh paint and possibility. It was everything Leo had ever wanted. And it was only the beginning. The flower shop survived its first month. Barely. Leo had underestimated how much work it would be. Early mornings at the wholesale market. Late nights balancing the books. And a steady stream of customers who all wanted the same thing, something romantic. But not too expensive. But also really impressive. You know. He didn't know. But he was learning. And every night, Luna picked him up from the shop at 8 o'clock sharp. She'd lean against the doorframe in her work clothes, still sharp. Still expensive. Still utterly out of place among the buckets of hydrangeas, and say, ready to go home. Home. He still couldn't get used to that word. Kevin quit. Luna announced it over takeout Chinese food. Her chopsticks hovering over a container of kung pao chicken. They were on the balcony again. The city twinkling below them. The evening air warm and soft. Kevin. Leo frowned. Your assistant. My former assistant. She sighed. He said the job was too intense and that he needed to prioritize his mental health. Can you blame him? You made him watch my flower shop. I made him do recon. There's a difference. Leo laughed. There really isn't. She pointed her chopsticks at him. You're not helping. I'm not trying to help. I'm trying to point out that you're impossible to work for. I'm an excellent boss. You made Kevin cry 3 times in 1 week. Tears of admiration. Luna. She sighed again. Setting down her chopsticks. Fine. Maybe I'm a little intense. A little. A lot. She leaned back in her chair. Staring up at the sky. I don't know how to be anything else. I've been running this company since I was 25. I had to be intense. If I was soft, they'd eat me alive. Leo reached across and took her hand. I know. He said. And I love you exactly the way you are. But you might need to find a new assistant who doesn't cry when you breathe. You're right. She looked at him. Which is annoying. What is? Being wrong. And you being right. Both of those things are annoying. He laughed and kissed her knuckles. I'm very smart. He said. You should listen to me more. Don't push it. The next morning. Luna's office called with an emergency. A product recall. A supplier error. 100,000 units of defective medical equipment that had already shipped to hospitals across the country. The kind of crisis that could sink a company if handled badly. Luna was on her tablet before Leo had even finished making coffee. I need to go in. She said. Her voice clipped and focused. This is going to take all day. Maybe all week. Leo nodded. Go. I'll be fine. She looked at him. And for a moment. The mask slipped. She looked tired. Stressed. Scared. Even. Leo, Luna. Go. He walked over and kissed her forehead. You're the CEO. This is what you do. Handle it. I'll be here when you get back. She nodded. Took a breath. And then she was gone. Striding out the door in her power suit. Already barking orders into her phone. Leo watched her go. And for the first time in weeks. He felt something cold settle in his chest. He didn't know what it was. He didn't want to name it. But it was there. Lurking beneath the surface. Waiting to be acknowledged. The shop was quiet that day. Too quiet. Leo spent the morning rearranging the display window. Then he reorganized the supply closet. Then he alphabetized the flower catalogs. Which was completely unnecessary but kept his hands busy. By noon. He'd run out of things to do. He sat behind the counter. Staring at his phone. No messages from Luna. He'd expected that. She was in crisis mode. She didn't have time for texts. But still. The cold feeling in his chest grew a little bit bigger. 3 days passed. 3 days of Luna leaving before he woke up and coming back after he'd gone to sleep. 3 days of brief. Exhausted phone calls. I'm fine. We're handling it. I miss you. I'll see you soon. 3 days of Leo feeling like he was losing her. He told himself it was fine. It was just work. It was just a crisis. It would pass. But the cold feeling didn't go away. Because this was what he'd been afraid of. Wasn't it? This was the reason he'd run. This was the reason he'd convinced himself he didn't deserve her. He was afraid of being left behind. And now, standing in his empty flower shop, surrounded by wilting petals and silence, it felt like his worst fear was coming true. On the 4th day, Leo called his father. Dad. He said. I need to ask you something. Of course. Son. What's wrong? Did you ever feel like you were losing Mom? Like she was somewhere else? And you couldn't reach her? His father was quiet for a long moment. Every day. He said finally. Your mother's a force of nature. Son. She always has been. I spent 30 years wondering if I was enough for her. Leo's throat tightened. How did you handle it? I didn't. His father chuckled. I just kept showing up. Kept loving her. Kept reminding her I was there. And eventually. She always came back. Leo closed his eyes. Are you afraid she's going to leave? His father asked. No. Leo said. And he meant it. I know she won't. But I'm afraid of feeling like this. Like I'm waiting for her to realize she deserves better. Son. His father's voice was gentle. She doesn't think she deserves better. She thinks you're the best thing that's ever happened to her. You need to believe that. Leo exhaled. I'm trying. He said. I'm really trying. I know. And you will. Just give it time. Time. Always time. That night. Leo waited up. He sat on the couch in Luna's penthouse. Staring at the door. A cup of cold coffee in his hands. The city glowed outside the windows. The clock ticked past midnight. Past 1. Past 2. At 2:30. The door opened. Luna walked in. Looking like she'd been through a war. Her hair was falling out of its bun. Her suit was wrinkled. Dark circles sat under her eyes like bruises. She saw him on the couch. And she stopped. Leo. She said. You're still awake. I was waiting for you. She set down her briefcase and walked over to him. Slowly. Carefully. Like she was approaching something fragile. I'm sorry. She said. I know I've been absent. I know I've been, it's okay. He set down the coffee and reached for her hands. I know you were busy. It's not okay. She knelt in front of him. Looking up at his face. I've been so focused on the company that I forgot about you. And I promised I wouldn't do that. Leo touched her face. I'm not going anywhere. He said. I just needed to see you. You're scared. She said. It wasn't a question. He looked away. Maybe. Leo. She cupped his chin and turned his face back toward hers. I am not going to leave you. I am not going to disappear. I am not going to realize I deserve better because there is no better. There's only you. His eyes burned. I know. He said. I know. Logically. But sometimes the fear is louder than logic. She nodded. I know. I feel it too. You do. Every single day. She laughed softly. I'm terrified. Leo. I'm terrified that one day you'll wake up and realize you don't actually want to be with the woman who has 80-hour work weeks and a complete inability to cook. I'm terrified that you'll choose quiet and safe over chaotic and me. Leo pulled her up onto the couch beside him. That's not going to happen, he said. How do you know? Because quiet and safe almost killed me. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. And chaotic and you made me feel alive again. She buried her face in his chest. I love you, she said. I'm sorry I've been away. I love you too. And I forgive you. She looked up at him. You do? Of course I do. He kissed her forehead. But if you ever disappear for 4 days again, I'm coming to the office and causing a scene. She laughed, that loud, ungraceful, perfect laugh. Please do, she said. I'd love to see Kevin's replacement try to handle you. Kevin had a replacement. 3 replacements. I keep scaring them off. Leo shook his head. You need to work on your people skills. I have people skills. I just choose not to use them. That's not how people skills work. I'm a CEO. I make the rules. He kissed her. Long and slow and full of everything he couldn't put into words. I'm never leaving you, he said against her lips. Promise. Promise. I promise. She smiled. It was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. The next morning, Luna took the day off. Leo woke up to find her in the kitchen, wearing one of his old t-shirts and trying to make pancakes. The kitchen was a disaster. Flour everywhere. A burned pan. A fire alarm that had been hastily silenced. What are you doing? He asked, rubbing his eyes. I'm cooking, she said indignantly. It's a thing people do. You're burning the kitchen. I'm learning. He walked over and looked at the mess. Then he looked at her. Flour on her nose. A streak of batter in her hair. A completely unguarded smile on her face. I love you, he said. She rolled her eyes. Of course you do. I'm adorable. You're a disaster. Adorable disaster. He took the spatula from her hand. Come on, he said. Let me show you how it's done. He made pancakes. She watched. He burned the first batch. She laughed. He burned the second batch. She laughed harder. By the third batch, they'd figured it out. And they ate breakfast on the balcony. Syrup on their fingers and sunshine on their faces. So, Luna said, licking maple syrup off her thumb. What's the plan for today? Plan. We have a whole day together. No work. No emergencies. No, she waved vaguely. Other people. Leo thought about it. I have an idea. He said. Tell me. It's a surprise. I hate surprises. You love surprises. I hate surprises that other people like. Leo grinned. That's the whole point of surprises. She glared at him. But she was smiling. Fine. She said. But if I hate it? I'm making you sleep on the couch. You wouldn't. Try me. He leaned over and kissed the syrup off her lips. I'll take my chances, he said. The surprise was the river. Leo drove them back to his hometown. To the same river where he'd thrown the ring. Where she'd found him crying in the mud. It was a different day now. Bright and warm and full of light. This is where you almost drowned, Luna said. Looking at the water. I didn't almost drown. I was sitting. You were drowning in self-pity. Wow. So supportive. She laughed and took his hand. Why here? She asked. Because this is where I made a choice. He led her to the bank. To the spot where they'd sat together. I chose to stop running. I chose to let you in. And I want to remember that. Luna looked at him. Her eyes were soft. Open. Utterly unguarded. Leo, I love you, he said. And I'm going to keep choosing you. Every day. For the rest of my life. She didn't say anything. She just kissed him. And when they pulled apart, she was crying again. But this time, she was smiling. Idiot. She whispered. You're idiot. Forever. Forever. They sat by the river for hours. Talking. Laughing. Watching the sun trace its way across the sky. Luna told him about her childhood, cold parents. Lonely boarding schools. The relentless pressure to be perfect. Leo told her about the war, the nightmares. The guilt. The long nights when he'd convinced himself he'd never feel normal again. And somewhere between the stories and the silences, something shifted. The fear didn't disappear. But it shrank. Just a little. Just enough for hope to fill the space it left behind. You know what I said? Luna asked as the sun began to set. About asking you something when you were ready. Leo nodded. I think you're ready. He looked at her. She had her knees pulled up to her chest. Her arms wrapped around them. Her face tilted toward the fading light. Okay. He said. Ask me. She turned to look at him. Marry me. Leo's heart stopped. Luna, I know it's fast. I know we've only been together a few months. I know you had a whole different life planned. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. But I've been carrying this for 2 years. I bought it before you even left the field. I was going to give it to you the night before your resignation. But you didn't show up. He stared at the box. I thought, she laughed softly. I thought if I gave it to you, maybe you'd stay. But you left anyway. And I've been carrying it ever since. She opened the box. Inside was a simple silver band. No diamonds. No flash. Just clean, elegant lines. It was my grandmother's. She said. She gave it to me before she died. She said. Give this to the person who makes you feel like you can breathe. And I didn't know what that meant. Not until you. Leo couldn't speak. Leo. Her voice was steady. But her hands were shaking. I don't need a big wedding. I don't need a fancy ring. I just need you. And I need to know that you're never going to leave. He looked at the ring. He looked at her. And then he laughed. A broken, joyful, disbelieving laugh. You are insane. He said. I know. Completely. Utterly. Irredeemably insane. I know. We've been together for less than 6 months. I know. We haven't even had a proper fight yet. Don't worry. She grinned. I'm sure we'll fix that. He took the ring out of the box. You're not actually going to marry me. He said. You're just trying to get me to stop being afraid. Is it working? He slid the ring onto his finger. It fit perfectly. Luna. Yes. Yes. Her face lit up like the sunrise. Yes. She repeated. Yes, yes. As in yes, yes. Luna. He cupped her face in his hands. I said yes. I'm saying yes. I'm always going to say yes to you. She kissed him so hard they nearly toppled into the river. You're going to regret this. She said against his lips. I'm impossible. I work too much. I can't cook. I'm going to micromanage every single aspect of our wedding, Luna. And I'm probably going to make you cry at least 7 times before the ceremony, Luna. And I already have a spreadsheet with 3 different color schemes and a seating chart and a flower arrangement that's going to be. He kissed her quiet. I don't care. He said. I don't care about any of that. I just want you. She stopped talking. Okay. She whispered. Okay. And they sat there. By the river. The sun sinking below the horizon. The ring warm on Leo's finger. And they let themselves be happy. The engagement spread through their worlds like wildfire. Luna's board of directors found out first. She announced it at the end of a quarterly meeting. Standing at the head of a massive mahogany table. Surrounded by men in expensive suits who had spent years trying to intimidate her. I'm getting married. She said flatly. To a florist. His name is Leo. You'll all be invited. Don't bring gifts. I don't want your money. The room went dead silent. One of the older board members, a man named Harrison with a face like a bulldog, actually choked on his water. A florist. He repeated. You're marrying a florist. His name is Leo. Luna repeated. He has a flower shop. He has very nice hands. He's also the best man I've ever met. So if anyone in this room has a problem with it, they can take it up with HR. No one said a word. Luna smiled, the kind of smile that made grown men reconsider their life choices. Good. Meeting adjourned. Leo's parents found out second. He called them from the car on the way back from the river. Luna's hand wrapped tightly around his. His mother screamed so loud he had to hold the phone away from his ear. Finally. She shrieked. Finally. I was starting to think you'd never get your act together, Mom. Does she have a ring? Did you get her a ring? What kind of ring? Is it pretty? Does it sparkle? Mom. She gave me a ring. What? I'm wearing the ring. She proposed to me. There was a long, stunned silence. Then his mother said. Very quietly. That woman is an absolute treasure and I love her more than I love you. Mom. You're dead to me. She's my favorite child now. Luna was laughing so hard she had to pull the car over. His father, predictably, was more pragmatic. Son, he said. I just have one question. What's that? Dad, is she going to make you sign a prenup? Dad, I'm just asking. It's practical. You have to think about these things. Luna grabbed the phone out of Leo's hand. Mr. Lin, she said sweetly. I'm the richest person in this entire state. I'm not going to take his flower shop money. I'm going to give him all of mine. His father was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I like her. Dad. She's threatening you with her money. I said I like her. The engagement made the news. Not the front page, Luna was too private for that. But a gossip column picked it up. And suddenly everyone knew. Ice Queen CEO engaged to mystery florist. The headlines were ridiculous. Speculative. Occasionally cruel. Luna read them all. Her expression utterly unreadable. You don't have to do that. Leo said. Watching her scroll through her phone. You know they're going to say terrible things. I know. She didn't look up. I want to know who to sue. Luna. What? I have a legal team. They're very bored. They need things to do. He took the phone out of her hands and tossed it onto the couch. I don't care what they say. He said. I don't care if they think I'm a gold digger or a fame seeker or whatever else they're calling me. I know the truth. She looked at him. What truth? That I fell in love with you 2 years ago. And I was too scared to do anything about it. And now I'm finally brave enough to marry you. And nothing, not the press, not the board, not the whole world, is going to change that. Her eyes softened. You're good at that. She said. Good at what? Making me feel like everything's going to be okay. He kissed her forehead. Because it is. He said. Everything is going to be okay. The next few weeks were chaos. Luna wanted a small wedding. Leo agreed. But then his mother got involved. And suddenly small became intimate but also somehow 80 people. And then Luna's PR team got involved. And suddenly intimate became we're going to have to rent out the entire botanical garden so the paparazzi can't get close. 80 people. Leo said. Staring at the guest list. We don't know 80 people. My board alone is 12. I don't know your board. You don't have to know them. You just have to smile and say nice things about my company. I don't even know what your company does. She stared at him. You're joking. Luna. I was in a war zone for 2 years. I know how to stitch wounds and treat infections and kill time with terrible card games. I have no idea what your company does. Medical technology. Leo. We make medical technology. The MRI machines you used. The defibrillators. All of it. I thought those were government funded. She put her face in her hands. You're marrying a man who doesn't know what my company does. She muttered. What is my life? I know what's important. He said. I know you're important. Does that count? She lifted her head and looked at him. Unfortunately. She said. Yes. He grinned. I love you too. The wedding planning brought out a side of Luna that Leo had never seen before. She was obsessed. Completely. Utterly. Terrifyingly obsessed. Color swatches. Flower arrangements, he was banned from choosing them because it was a conflict of interest. Seating charts. Menu tastings. Cake samples. She had spreadsheets for everything. She had sub-spreadsheets for the spreadsheets. Leo found it incredibly endearing. You're enjoying this. She accused him. Catching him smiling at her one night as she cross-referenced 2 different floral design proposals. I'm enjoying you. He corrected. You're very cute when you're maniacal. I'm not maniacal. I'm thorough. You made Kevin's replacement cry 3 times this week. Kevin's replacement needs to learn resilience. He's a wedding planner. Luna. Not a soldier. She looked up from her tablet. Why do you keep bringing up Kevin? Because you keep traumatizing people. I don't traumatize people. I inspire them to be better. By screaming at them about rose petal color. I didn't scream. I raised my voice. There's a difference. Leo walked over and took the tablet out of her hands. She made a sound of protest, a small, indignant squeak that he absolutely loved. Leo, take a break. He said. You've been planning for 5 hours. I have to finish. No. Break. He set the tablet on the coffee table and pulled her to her feet. Come dance with me. Dance. There's no music. Then we'll dance in silence. Leo. That's weird. Luna. You're in love with a man who has PTSD and a flower shop. Weird is our baseline. She laughed. And then she let him pull her into his arms. Right there in the middle of the penthouse. With no music and the city glittering outside the windows. They swayed slowly. Her head rested against his chest. His chin rested on top of her head. Thank you. She said quietly. For what? For this. For you. For not running away. He held her a little tighter. I'm not running anymore. He said. That's the whole point. The night before the wedding. Leo couldn't sleep. He lay in the guest room, they'd agreed to spend the night apart. Tradition and all that, staring at the ceiling. His heart pounding in his chest. Tomorrow. He was marrying Luna Lang. Tomorrow. Everything would change. He didn't know why he was so nervous. He wasn't scared of her. He wasn't scared of the wedding. He wasn't scared of the future. He was scared of being happy. It was a stupid thing to be scared of. He knew that. But the fear was there. Old and familiar. Whispering in the back of his mind, you don't deserve this. She's going to realize her mistake. You're going to ruin everything. He squeezed his eyes shut. Stop it, he told himself. Just stop. His phone buzzed. A text from Luna, are you awake? He smiled in the dark. Can't sleep, he typed back. Me neither. Want to break tradition. He laughed out loud. What did you have in mind? The balcony. 10 minutes. Don't tell anyone. He was already pulling on his jeans. She was waiting for him in the penthouse living room. Wearing an old sweatshirt and messy hair and a smile that made his heart ache. This is insane. He said. We're not supposed to see each other. I don't care about supposed to. She grabbed his hand. I care about you. She led him to the balcony. The night was cool and clear. The stars scattered across the sky like spilled diamonds. I'm scared too. She said softly. He looked at her. You are. I'm scared every single day. She turned to face him. I'm scared that I'm not good enough. I'm scared that I'm too intense. I'm scared that one day you'll wake up and realize you made a huge mistake. Luna, but then I look at you. She continued. And I remember that you chose me. You chose me. Leo. Even when I was impossible. Even when I was terrifying. Even when I burned the kitchen. You still chose me. He reached out and touched her face. Of course I did. He said. There was never anyone else. She leaned into his palm. Promise me. She said. Promise me that tomorrow, when you see me walking down the aisle, you won't run. Luna. I know it's stupid. I know I'm being ridiculous. But I need to hear you say it. He took both of her hands in his. I promise. He said. I promise I will not run. I promise I will be there. I promise I will spend the rest of my life choosing you. Every single day. Her eyes filled with tears. Okay. She whispered. Okay. They kissed under the stars. Slow and sweet and full of everything they couldn't say aloud. And when they finally parted, Leo felt the fear lift off his shoulders like a weight he'd been carrying for too long. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and perfect. Leo woke up in the guest room, he'd gone back. Eventually, feeling lighter than he had in years. He showered. He shaved. He put on the suit his mother had picked out and stared at himself in the mirror. The man looking back at him looked different. Happier. Calmer. You got this, he told himself. You got this. His father knocked on the door. Ready? He asked. Leo nodded. Ready. His father walked over and put a hand on his shoulder. I'm proud of you. He said. You know that. Right. Yeah. Dad. I know. Your mother's already crying. She's been crying since 6. I think she's going to cry through the whole ceremony. Leo laughed. That's Mom. Yep. That's Mom. His father squeezed his shoulder. You found a good one. Son. Don't let her go. I don't plan to. Good. Because I'd have to fight you. And I'm still recovering from the heart surgery. Dad. You're not fighting anyone. Don't test me. I'm surprisingly agile. The botanical garden was stunning. Luna had outdone herself. Rows of flowers, every color, every variety, lined the aisle. The setting sun cast a golden glow over everything. The guests were seated. The music was playing. And Leo stood at the altar with his heart in his throat. And then she appeared. Luna walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, nothing too elaborate. Nothing too flashy. Her hair was loose, cascading over her shoulders in waves. Her smile was so bright it made Leo's chest ache. She wasn't the Ice Queen. She wasn't the CEO. She wasn't the terrifying woman who had intercepted him at the airport 3 months ago. She was just Luna. His Luna. And she was walking toward him. The ceremony was a blur. Vows were exchanged. Rings were slipped onto fingers. Tears were shed, his mother. Mostly. But also Luna's PR manager. Who claimed it was just allergies. And then the officiant said the words, "You may kiss the bride." Leo didn't hesitate. He pulled her into his arms and kissed her like the world was ending and they were the only 2 people left in it. The crowd cheered. His father whistled. His mother sobbed. And Luna laughed against his lips, that loud, ungraceful, perfect laugh. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," he said. "Forever. Forever." The reception was held in the garden's grand hall. Champagne flowed. Toasts were made. His father gave a speech that went on for 15 minutes and involved several questionable anecdotes from Leo's childhood. Luna's board members looked terrified of her. Leo's mother cornered Harrison the bulldog-faced man and told him all about her son's flower shop. It was chaos. It was perfect. And at the end of the night, when all the guests had gone home and the staff was cleaning up and the champagne had run dry, Leo and Luna stood alone on the garden terrace, looking up at the stars. "Mrs. Lin," Luna said, testing the name on her tongue. "That's me now." "It is. Mrs. Leo Lin. Technically, I'm Mr. Luna Lang. But we can negotiate." She laughed. "I love you. I know. You're supposed to say it back. I know." He kissed her forehead. "I love you too. Always." She wrapped her arms around him and rested her head on his chest. "Are you happy?" she asked. "Really happy?" Leo thought about it. He thought about the war. He thought about the fear. He thought about the long nights when he'd convinced himself he'd never feel normal again. Then he looked at Luna. Standing in his arms. Wearing his ring. Smiling up at him like he was the best thing that had ever happened to her. "Yes," he said. "I really am."